Republican strategist Matt Klink and Democratic strategist Michael Wilson are with me right now. Thank you, gentlemen, both for being here. So in terms of these ideals and what they are appealing to next, this is a very big load that both candidates have on their shoulders in the next 3.5 weeks. So let's talk first about Vice President Kamala Harris, of course, campaigning on these ideals of unity. She's talked about having Republicans in her cabinet. But are those promises of unity, I'm going to start with you, Matt, are they kind of mute? Because likely she's going to be having someone who's a de facto betrayer of some of the Republican Party, like a Liz Cheney. And again, these are definitions by those who've remained with either former President Trump or with the RNC, as opposed to somebody like her.
Adrian, thank you again for having me. Look, I think that the Republicans think that we traded up. The Democrats took the two Cheneys, and we got RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard. And, oh, by the way, Peter Deutsch, former congressman from Pennsylvania. So Kamala Harris, the problem with that all California Democrats have is that they've been in the majority for so long in California that they think reaching across the aisle as the Republicans just bend to Democratic will. Kamala Harris has never compromised, and she's never going to compromise. She is a liberal ideologue, and she's going to continue to push progressive policies because, as she said, her values have not changed. She is a San Francisco liberal, and she will continue to be a San Francisco liberal.
Michael, what do you think is potentially a problem for her in terms of authenticity? You know, saying that her values haven't changed, mentioning on The View this week during her media blitz that there's nothing that stands out to her about anything she would do differently than what she did while she's been a part of the Biden-Harris administration.
Well, I think she's running on a platform that's been successful for the past few years. Listen, you know, she has to build a coalition if she's going to get in the White House. And, you know, that goes back to kind of old school politics, the way it used to be, and reaching across the aisle. Some people might not like it, but, you know, if you want to pass legislation, you want to pass these bills, you have to be able to have a coalition. You have to have support from both parties. And that's an effective presidency right there. I think the biggest issue for her is going to be her platform of the economy and abortion versus Trump's platform of immigration and the economy. So it's basically abortion versus immigration. And, you know, coming from a Democratic perspective, unfortunately, the immigration appears to be a little on the higher scale right now.
But just to my original question, in terms of her saying she wouldn't change anything that she's done over the past few years while she's been in the White House, nothing stands out. Is that something she should have said if she's wanting to communicate to the American people who she is, what she'll do differently? Because even though you said it's been effective, there are a lot of people who don't think it's been effective economically, to say the least.
Well, so I think on the policies, the economic policies, I think she's going to run that, and you know she shouldn't change because they have been effective in terms of bringing down inflation, you know, jobs, increase in jobs. But I think the one key thing here for her, and when you're going through the whole perspective of things right here, is she has to really put her foot down and have something special here. You can rely on the past, but I think what people want from her is, what are you going to do for the future? And what is that specific thing you're going to do for me? And I think Waltz is the answer, which is the unionized jobs and bringing jobs back for the middle class and the working class.
We know that inflation has been a roller coaster. It went way up during the Biden administration. They were able to bring it somewhat down from historic levels. But Matt, in terms of strategy for the Trump campaign, they're going to be in Coachella for a rally today. And then at the end of the month, 2 weeks from now, he's doing a rally in Madison Square Garden in New York City. So what do you think he's going for? Is he going for those voters who are not as represented in a typical election year or maybe not heard of?
Adrian, Donald Trump is looking to expand the playing field. I don't think he holds any doubt that the Democrats are going to carry the states of California and New York. However, there is a hot congressional race in that part of the world. Incumbent Congressman Calvert is running there. In addition, the Democrats have a big problem with young Latino men and young African-American men, and Donald Trump is going to go out of his way to cater to both between now and the election day, because every vote that he gets from that demographic is one less vote that Kamala Harris can count on from that demographic. And that's why Donald Trump is surging in the 7 swing states across the U.S. right now.
They are virtually tied, and in some polls showing a Trump lead. Michael, this conversation came up this week when President Obama, who started stumping for Vice President Harris, brought up an appeal to African-American men in this country saying they should vote for her. Is the messaging getting lost? Is it sounding desperate?
I think a little bit here. So interesting you bring this up because I was listening to another different podcast, and the reflection, or I say how Black men see this right now, especially maybe even older Black men, is that, hey, look, we're a lot like Trump. Trump's like us. We've been shot at, we've been convicted, and maybe we have a baby mama or two out there. So they identify with that. And also, there's one other thing here people forget. Listen, all the rhetoric Trump says, listen, he in the 80s and 90s, he was tight with Don King, tight with Mike Tyson. People, Black men are fight fans, and they look into that right there. They see that. And so you can't just say because Kamala is Black that Black men are going to vote for her. It's not going to work. She needs to appeal to the Black men. And I think either the Black men will either stand back and not vote or vote for Trump, and she's going to lose that vote.
Wow. That's something. You're saying something. I think there are a lot of men who don't have multiple baby mamas or haven't been shot at too, who are just saying, don't tell me what to think. I have 4 brothers, and I've learned if you tell somebody what to think, they're going to do the opposite.
Exactly.
Just anecdotally, I think that's everybody, not just Black men. Matt Klink, Michael Wilson, thank you so much for being on. We'll see you again soon.
Thank you, Adrian.
Thank you.
See you, Michael.